And by joining the Southern Tigers, Ibrahim has shown that he's more than ready to step up the stage, not just among the local born players, but particularly for the Orang Asli community, where their natural strength, their pace, their hidden talents, where there are so many raw diamonds that are left unpolished due to the standard of living in those communities, that even though the government, the current Malaysian government of the day is paying more attention to them, Malaysian football has been accused for a number of years for neglecting the community. It's not just about the administrative issues or the politics, but more of the general overlooking of this particular group of footballers. And if that can be fixed, the Orang Asli community will have a proper role model where they can look forward to should Ibrahim Mansor succeed and make it big, or reach at least equivalent of what Haris Harun has done with Johor Darul Takzim. On 16th of June, Malaysian powerhouses Johor Darul Takzim announced their first local signing ahead of the upcoming 2025-26 season. His name, Ibrahim Mansor, a 23-year-old Orang Asli midfielder who joined the Southern Tigers on a free transfer from fellow league side Sri Pahang. Why is that significant? Even though he is the first of what could be a number of new local signings for the powerhouses who aim to keep rejuvenating their squad ahead of the upcoming campaign. The significance lies in the fact that he's not only just a young promising midfielder who had a breakthrough 2024-25 season for the Tok Gajahs under the guidance of Singaporean football legend Fandi Ahmad, and make an indelible impression against the Southern Tigers in last season's Malaysian Cup final. The fact that he's also Johor's first ever Orang Asli signing makes it a very significant factor, as the indigenous people of Malaysia take a further stride forward with a representative of their own joining the biggest Malaysian football club in the country. And before I delve into the Orang Asli and what happened, what is the deal with other footballers in Southeast Asia with indigenous backgrounds, particularly from Indonesia, allow Tayaja to share a bit on who this young player is, and where did he come from, and the various aspects of the style of play, and what he's likely to contribute to what is already an immensely talented and strong, formidable squad ahead of the 25-26 campaign. Born on 30th September 2001 in Sungai Buloh, Selangor, Ibrahim came into prominence as a promising midfielder when he joined Sri Pahang after graduating from the Tunku Mahkota Ismail Sports School, and he had to gradually climb his way up the ranks before making his professional debut on 3rd of October 2022 in the Malaysian Super League away to Sarawak in Kuching. Prior to his professional debut, he was a key player for the Pahang Sukma team, and as well as for the club's under-21 squad that finished runners-up in the President's Cup that season. So, after making only a handful of appearances in 2022 and 2023 seasons, his first 2 years in professional football, he had a breakthrough 24-25 season where he became a key player under Fandi as Sri Pahang reached the Malaysia Cup final for the first time in a number of years. And In that season, he made a total of 25 appearances, 18 in the Malaysian Super League and 7 in the Malaysia Cup, as they reach all the way to the final. And what stood out for Ibrahim Mansor is his looks, his build, because his looks could have him mistaken as an African footballer, but no, his looks is more of the looks of a Orang Asli, as I mentioned earlier, an indigenous tribal ethnic group who are the original aboriginals of Peninsular Malaysia long before the ethnic Malays, Chinese, Indians, and subsequently when the Dutch, the British, when they came into various parts of what is now today's Malaysia to colonize before sovereign independence in 1957. And what is more significant about him is he's only one of the handful of Orang Asli footballers to have reached the highest level in Malaysian club football. In fact, the first known Orang Asli footballer to have achieved such a breakthrough was Yosri Damaraju. Born in Negeri Sembilan, the first Orang Asli player, he became the first Orang Asli player to be given a full national team called up in the early 2000s and subsequently earned 3 caps for the Harimau Malaya. And the significance part of the Orang Asli community is they have quite a number of promising athletic footballers who are, unfortunately for too many an instance, unpolished gems because of the lack of scouting, the lack of adequate training, or the lack of finances to provide better football education locally for this group of indigenous people, land people. But before going a little bit further on the Orang Asli versus what the Papuans, the more significant group of indigenous people who have made significant contributions to Indonesian football, allow me to talk a little bit more on what type of player Johor can expect from their first local signing of the 25-26 season. Well, when it comes to Ibrahim Mansor as a player, he's noted for his distinctive heights, lanky build, and he plays as a central midfielder, operating more on the defensive side. He plays a rather, you can say, a fast free football system where he's better noted for his positioning, his speed, his braveness, where he became prominent last season for his uncanny ability in pressing for the ball, with his ability to catch up with the opponents and recovering possession, and plays a fast free game where once he wins possession, he does not attempt to play a fancy dribble or a fancy move, but instead recycles it to his teammates, either back to in defense or forward to initiate quick attacking plays that help Pahang contribute in their counter-attacking play under Coach Fandi. So for Ibrahim, he's able to, that keenness in anticipation is evident through those past video clips of him in action, particularly from last season, and not just the Malaysia Cup final alone, where he played a big role in neutralizing the midfield axis of Johor's veteran captain Nasrul Insa and Malaysian international Afiq Fazil. So despite the Tok Gajah's defeat in the cup final, he stood out for his ability to reduce the midfield duo's influence in the game with his relentless pressing and anticipation. And he has a very high work rate for a young footballer, which is in a way a bit of a rarity. The Malaysian footballers do work hard on the pitch, but Ibrahim stood out for his high work rate, and he's unafraid to go into tackles, make challenges in his bid to regain possession for his team. Although the technical aspect of his play is sometimes quite raw. It's not just about the lack of sophistication in the way he distributes the ball, but also at times with his challenges, with his tackling. But he makes up for it with that sheer determination, that high pressing game that allows Pahang to at least regain some control of the ball, possession, and allow them to rebuild and play the game that Fandi wanted out of the Tok Gajahs last season. But when he joins Johor, it's a very different world from what he had gone through over those few years when he was given his debut by the now Malaysia FAM Football Association of Malaysia Vice President Datuk Dollah Saleh and Fandi, where he was given ample opportunities to grow with a lot of minutes on the pitch, to sharpen his game awareness, to sharpen his match fitness, and also his football abilities on the pitch. Because it's only by playing in those professional games that he's able to show what he can do, how much he can improve, and how much he has grown as a player from a relative rookie just 3 years ago, 3 years ago. So the thing is, when it comes to Johor's first new local signing, he has had a lot of work cut out for him at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium, because he's up against quite a number of talented midfielders who play in the same position as him, and their levels are way higher than what he has achieved so far at Sri Pahang. That means he has a lot of work to do to catch up to those few players who are currently occupying his role at Johor for quite a substantial period of time. Notably, Nacho Insa, who is a complete midfielder whose ability to dictate the tempo of play and distributes balls not just with the short passing but also initiating quick counter attacks with his varied range of passing, from short to very long diagonal balls that usually land accurately at the player that he intends to pass to. That is the one area of game that Ibrahim is sorely lacking in. But Ibrahim is quite useful in a way that is similar to a former Johor player, the former Singaporean captain Haris Harun, where Haris, during his time at Johor Darul Takzim, made significant contributions to the Southern Tigers with his composed play, where he, like Ibrahim, but more technically sophisticated, tactically astute. Haris was able to make a good range of passing. He was also a very hardworking midfielder who showed a lot more work ethic that made him a vital contribution at the peak of his playing career at the then Larkin Stadium. And he was also a vital factor in the early years of Johor's dominance in the mid-2010s, where he contributed to a number of Malaysian Super League titles, and more crucially, the AFC Cup title, becoming the first Malaysian side to win a continental club championship in 2015. In this way, Ibrahim is of a slightly similar mold to Haris Harun, but Ibrahim definitely has to up that game, the brain, his football brain, because he's going to be playing alongside players who are several levels above him when it comes to the football brain, something that Nacho Insa, the player first central midfielder I mentioned, who obviously has that by many miles, having played in Spain prior to coming to Malaysia. Then you got Hector Havel, who is a new signing from Johor after joining as a free agent, and also a more notable contributor to the Malaysian national team this year, having made his debut against Nepal in the Asian Cup qualifier in March. Then you have Nathaniel Hong Wan, who is a strong midfielder. He's technically competent and he has that body strength to provide the muscle that is at times needed in the middle of the park. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, Afiq Fazal. He's an experienced local born midfielder who has had vast experience playing for club and country, and is quite technically accomplished. And although he's shorter and a little leaner than Ibrahim, but he has a rather keen game astuteness in him that makes him such one of the more longest serving midfielders at the club for the past few years. And with this level of competition that Ibrahim is facing in the middle of the park, we are not going to expect Ibrahim to make such an immediate impact, especially in a team that demands to break its own level, to go further within themselves. Given that they are so dominant in Malaysia, it's not about competing against other clubs in the league, it's more about breaking their own frontiers, particularly in at the highest level of Asian club competition, where they are competing in the AFC Champions League Elite for the second successive season since its rebranding from the original AFC Champions League, where they have been mainstays for at least the better part of this decade. Now, Ibrahim will have his work cut out in terms of, I think you can say, a crash course in how a proper game in midfield should be played from the likes of Nacho, Hong Wan, Afiq, and Hector Havel. So he's not going to be a starting 11 midfielder immediately. He may not even be on the bench right away after his joining of the club, because he probably needs to attain a high level of technical competence under the new coach the new JDT coach Cisco, before he gets the nod of approval to join, to even have a substantial role coming off the bench. He has the natural athleticism in him. He has that natural high work rate and desire to play as a good level as possible. But when it comes to the football brain, there's plenty of polishing to do. When it comes to the level of technical skills on the ball, and perhaps even certain aspects of his tackling, there are things that there's a bit of refining to do. But if done right, he can be as good as Haris Harun, who showed Johor what he can do during his period with the Southern Tigers. And more significantly, if Ibrahim Mansour eventually succeeds, whether he goes out on loan in the second half of the season or eventually plays a number of matches as a substitute with substantial number of minutes to control the game, to hold the midfield, to play a fast free game of football, to challenge duels where he has the height and also the strength to compete, then we can see an evolution of what could be the best Orang Asli footballer Malaysia has ever produced. And if Ibrahim succeeds at Johor, even as coming on as more of an impact substitute at this talent-laden club, then he will break the frontiers of even what Yosri Demaraju has already achieved in his football playing career. And that could also provide a bigger boost for more Orang Asli footballers to come forward, to break through their own comfort zone from within their own tribes, to go further and make as much a contribution as what the Papuans have done in Indonesia at the turn of this century. Yes, century. Because for quite a substantial period of time, Indonesia have been relying a lot on the Papuan footballers. And I can name a number right off the top of my head. I mean, the current ones include the Sayuri twin brothers, Yaakob and Yasin, Ricky Kambuaya, the more prominent ones in recent decades, Ali Aboy, who used to play for Selangor in the Malaysian Super League, Titus Bonai, and that talent in that particular indigenous Papuan group that hail from the Papuan region in Indonesia is so impressive that Indonesia actually attempted to build a team around Papuans ahead of one of the SEA Games. I think it's 2011 SEA Games, where they narrowly missed out on winning the gold medal on penalties, ironically to Malaysia. And even with the influx of Dutch-born players in the Garuda squad in recent years, the Papuans have remained a significant fixture in the national team. In fact, such is the value of the Papuans that the current Dutch coaching team led by Patrick Kluivert and Alex Pastoor have used them quite extensively in the few games that they have been in charge so far. So, the value of the indigenous people in their raw strength, in their space, in their ability to break through the opponents, and their ability to be as comfortable in beating past equally strong or stronger opponents on the ball and off the ball, these are valuable assets that Indonesian football have been able to utilize on with those Papuan players, compared to the Orang Asli community in Malaysia, where the number of Orang Asli footballers who have made the grade can be counted with one hand. I mean, apart from Yosri and now Ibrahim, there was also a young footballer who is given a chance to play. I think he earned a contract with Sri Pahang a couple of years ago. Lokman Badin. So, but he has yet to make as much of an impression as what Ibrahim has managed to do. And by joining the Southern Tigers, Ibrahim has shown that he's more than ready to step up the stage, not just among the local born players, but particularly for the Orang Asli community, where their natural strength, their pace, their hidden talents, where there are so many raw diamonds that are left unpolished due to the standard of living in those communities, that even though the government, the current Malaysian government is paying more attention to them, Malaysian football has been accused for a number of years for neglecting the community. It's not just about the administrative issues or the politics, but more of the general overlooking of this particular group of footballers. And if that can be fixed, the Orang Asli community will have a proper role model where they can look forward to should Ibrahim Mansor succeed and make it big, or reach at least the equivalent of what Haris Harun has done with Johor Darul Takzim. If Ibrahim Mansor in the next 1 or 2 years can achieve that level, he will definitely be has the potential to be the most capped Orang Asli international footballer for Harimau Malaya, and that could lead to more Orang Aslis to come forward to attempt to become professional footballers, utilizing their natural physical attributes to their advantage, the way the Papuans have already done for a few decades in Indonesian football.